With a cane, yeah. I'll hit you with my cane. All right, so today I wanted to talk, first of all, about how we can protect our website a little bit. So let's say we have a site. Let's go to mine. This is my dev site that I've been working on. And I have some folders in here like templates and JavaScript and images. And people can actually just change the URL here and go to my images folder and list all of the images that I have on my site. Well, that's not very useful. I can click on them and it takes me to the image. So that's pretty nice from a user's perspective, but I don't want my stuff so easily displayed out there. I can also see all my template folder, which is bad. I can actually see some of the PHP files. So one quick way to protect that is by putting a file in that folder, even just a blank HTML file. So let's create a new HTML file, and we'll call it index.html. It does have to be called index because the browsers, by default, going into a new folder, look for a file called index.html. So I don't have to do anything in here. I can just say go away. And let's save that. Look at my file again. Reload this folder. And now it's going to display whatever the content of my HTML file is. Right? Everybody see that? So that's one way to do it, but that's not real nice. It would be nicer if they tried to go to some lower level of my site that I brought them back to the top level of my site. Right? So we can do that without even going into, there are other ways on the server. I can do that through like HT access files and things like that. But the easier way is just to play with the HTML. So the concept is called a meta refresh. So let's use Google, and we'll look for HTML meta refresh tag. And we can look at this W3 Schools is probably a good one. And I almost always go and I look for the tag here. Here's a refresh down here. Refresh the document every 30 seconds. That's not quite what I want. I want to refresh and go to a whole new page. So let's see, where is that? That's not a good example. So let's go find another one. You're finding it faster than me. Is it the Wikipedia? I will skip that one. All right, so let's go to Wikipedia. I want to go to another site. So this one looks good here. It's all right. We'll just change the value. So we put that in the head of our document. And it's just an HTML tag that has to be in the head, the HTTP equiv refresh. And then the value here is all one quoted string. And this first number is how many seconds to wait until we actually do the refresh. So I'm going to change that to 0. And I'm going to make the URL just go to my top level of my site. All right, so I'm going to save that. Go back to my browser. Reload my page. And it did the redirect so fast I didn't even notice it. So now I can, let's try to do it again. Templates. Yeah, I saw the go away real fast. Did you see that? It's gone. So I might even take that away just so it shows nothing if their browser is too slow. So now I don't see anything. And the, well.
Is it entirely wrong there to put redirect as just a text there to let them know why their browser is?
No, you could do that. I could put redirecting to top level. You could do something like that. Anything you want.
That far, I just said redirect.
Yeah. So that works fine. Now I can take this file and copy it into all of my other folders. Paste. All right, so now all of my CSS and my templates have that file in it, and let it upload. And I can try to go to /JS, for instance, and it redirects me to the top. Isn't that nice? Nice, sweet, clean, easy way to protect my website. Smashing. Why? Well, a search engine is not going to go to that folder by itself anyway. They're going to go to HTML pages that reference that folder. They might reference a specific image in a folder, but they're not going to reference just the folder itself. So it shouldn't affect SEO in that case. I don't see that.
It also says it's a legacy.
It is a legacy tag, but it still works. Every browser still supports it. So too bad. All right. That's a quick, rough and dirty way to do that. So let's move on to some forms, and I'm going to start looking at the Contact Us page because this will be your next assignment. And let's start putting in a form here. I'm gonna change my file here to have my PHP as separate pieces. And in here, I can now, this is the content of my page. I can now insert a form here, okay? So you should know how a form works already. This was in HTML in the CSS class that you had. So we start a form, and it has some properties. We'll work on those in a minute. And we have a closing tag of a form. And then let's just do a simple input tag. Let's say I want to input, and I need a name for my field. I need to name my field. Let's call it name. All right? And let's call it first name. And I need to tell it what type of field it is. The type of the field is going to be what? It's a text. So in a text is a small text box, not a text area. It's a simple text box. And that's really all I need to start with. And I need a prompt to go to tell them what to put in. So I can have a label that says enter your first name. And how does a label get tied to through the name, right? Through first name. What? Invalid reference. Must be for the ID. I always get these wrong. All right, so the ID can be the same as the for. These tie the label together. The name, though, is important for PHP. I need this name so I can get the data from the form. All right, the last thing I need to do is tell the form where to go. Actually, I need another thing too, but I need to tell it where to go when I post this data. So what's the attribute for that? Action, okay. Action equals, and I give it the URL of where I want this form data to be sent to. And that URL is typically another PHP page that I have, right? So in this case, I want to send back to my same page. I want the same page to process this. So I want to go to contactus.php. And then the method, we need to define the method of how this is going to be sent, and we're going to say post. Okay, we want to post this data to the same page that comes up. It doesn't have to be, no. some people like it lowercase. I always do it uppercase, so it's not case sensitive. No. Then I finally need an input that is a submit button. And I'm going to name it question, whatever. And the value of my button is what gets displayed on top of the button. Remember that? So the value is going to be ask question. Ask a question. Question. And yes, I might want to have a break tag here after my text box so that my button is on the second line. All right, let's see what I got so far. Let's see. Oh, picky, picky, picky. Close my input field. Very good. See, I did that as a test. All right, so let's go to my Contact Us page. My page is too big. Contact Us. And here we go. Here's the form that shows up because I have my header and my footer showing up on every page. Remember, this is my header and my footer. It still looks like the rest of my site. And then this stuff is showing up where the content is in the middle. So it says, enter my first name, and it's got a text field here, and then ask a question. So I can say, Dave, and say, post. Now, where did it go to? It went to the same Contact Us page, and it sent the data to this page, but my page didn't do anything with it. It just ignored it. It just threw it away. It's not sticky yet, right? I don't know what it is yet. So before we go on to that, let me change the method to get, because this is what we did yesterday. There are two ways of sending data to a form. One is through the get, and one is through the post. At least there are actually 4 verbs, but get and post are the only ones used by all the browsers. So if I do this again and say ask a question, it didn't work. There we go. There we go. I had to refresh the page. So my URL now says, in the URL itself, it gives me the name, the key value that I had. Remember yesterday we talked about key value pairs. So the first name came from the input name of my text box, and the submit came as a question. Okay, so I've got 2 key value pairs. This is what I typed in the text box, and the question just said that they actually submitted something, right? So the question submit button has a value of ask a question. Not real useful in most cases, but that's the data that gets sent to the form. All right? So if I do it as a get, it shows up in the query string. Not secure, right? So that's why we do it as a post in most cases. So we'll change it back to a post and look at it again, reload my page, post something. Let's post Dave. And you see it doesn't show up in the URL anymore. But the data did still get sent in the background to my page. Any questions on that so far? Pardon me? Yes. Yeah, I can use the get to see that my data is actually going somewhere. It's a good way for troubleshooting. So now in my PHP section, I need to get that data. Now remember yesterday we did in my test, I used this get variable. This is an array that is what we call an associative array. This is like a hash in Ruby or an associative array in JavaScript, where the key, the index into the array, is the name that I want to get out. That's the key that gets sent from the form. Remember, key value pairs. They're always key value pairs. So instead of the get array, what do you think the array is going to be called? It's going to be called post. So I can say, I can set a variable name equals $post, and I can index it by the name of the input box that I gave it in the HTML side, which happens to be name again, so it's a bad variable. But now name is something I can use. It's, yeah. Oh, that's what I said, first name. So the name, so I'm going to call my variables first name, and the key value was first name. Thank you. Yes?
The naming convention of the $sign and underscore, is that just naming for arrays?
No, this is, for this?
Right.
This is a built-in variable that PHP defines. We don't have any control over that.
So can we ever name anything with that same?
You can, but it's confusing. So you typically don't. These are kind of built-in variables.
I just want to make sure if there was a difference.
Yeah.
Arrays or-
No, not really. Not really. I can call my own arrays whatever I want. All right, so now first name would contain what value then? Whatever the user types into that text box. And what type of data is it? It's a string. Whether I'm asking for a number or a string or a float or whatever, I'm always going to get a string. Just like in Ruby, I'm getting data from the keyboard. Everything comes to you as a string. Doesn't matter what it is, I'm getting it as a string. So I might have to do some conversions on that data, but it always comes to me as a string. Okay, that's a key point. So now this value, I can echo this out. Let's just echo out your first name is first name. And let's add a break tag here, just because. All right, so now I can see that I got the data that got posted. So let's see if that works. Let's reload my page. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to type Davey to be something different. And so my first name is Davey. It took the data from the text box, put it into my variable, and I printed out the data to the screen again. So that made a round trip. From the form, I sent the data, my same page got the data, and redisplayed it itself. It's redisplaying the same page, but it happened to have some additional data with it. Any comments or questions on that? Everybody see that round trip cycle? When I first go to the page, without posting anything, I'm going to get an error, and my first name is nothing, right? There was nothing in that variable. This is a notice, and why does that notice come up? Remember we talked about it yesterday, those that were here yesterday. What did we add to our site to make that notice come up? Errors, right? We changed in our header, we added these 2 lines of code here so that we're telling the PHP interpreter that we want to display all the errors you have and send me all of the errors and all the strict errors together. This is a numeric OR, so this makes both of these, or an AND, sorry. No, that's an OR. Sorry, that's an OR. So this adds the 2 of these variables together, and that way I get even notices like this. There's an undefined index first name. Okay, there's no such index in first name when I first come to the page because I didn't post anything to this page. Do you see that difference there? In this code, this value is not there yet because I haven't posted to this page. So that's a notice. That's why it's not really a bad thing. The program will still run, but the way to get rid of that notice is we can check to see if the variable is there first. If it is, then I want to get the data out. So I could do something like this. If is set is a built-in PHP method, and I can test the value of my post. And if it is set to something, then I want to actually get the data from the user. And that should get rid of one of the warnings anyway, and give me a new warning. Let's run it. Okay, so it got rid of the undefined index, but now it says I have an undefined variable. Remember yesterday we talked about PHP doesn't really care if it's undefined. It will give you an empty variable automatically, but it's not a good programming practice to have undefined variables. We want to set it to something, right? So how would I fix that error? And why am I getting that error, first of all? Okay, so let's look at the line. Let's look at the line where I'm getting undefined line 14. You're right. Time it's being that variable is not displayed because I'm not posting anything to the page. That is not set, so this line never gets executed. So first name is unknown in this case. Now, if I post to it, nothing, it's rid of the notice because then it executed was set to nothing. First name is set to nothing and prints out your first name is nothing. That's okay. But how would I fix that so that if I just go to the first page, as if I clicked on my link up here, contact us, I don't want this to come up. I want my variable to be defined. Okay, I can do that. Else first name equals an empty string.
Now, are you using if statement to make sure that your first name doesn't come up?
You could. Yeah, I would then probably do something else down here and make it more complicated. But that should get rid of my warning. So now my variable is at least defined as nothing. So that works great. Now, this is a programming style thing. What I typically do is I define the variable anyway. No matter what, I define the variable to be nothing. Then, if something comes in through the posting, I redefine it as whatever comes in through the posting. So that's similar to that. It's just a programming style. It makes the code a little shorter. I don't have to worry about the else statement, etc. So I define all my variables at the top of the page. I redefine them if they come in through a post, and then they're all set to nothing or whatever that I can use down here. Any questions on that? All right, so next tomorrow, we're out of time, tomorrow we will take that data and put it as the value of my input box, and that will make it sticky. All right, so as I get the data back, I can use that data to fill in the form as a default value. So we'll do that tomorrow. Any questions? My any page? This one? Okay, there you go. I'm going to stop. Any other questions?